Bring Me the Horizon are one of the rare heavy bands whose story cannot be told as a straight line. They began as a brutal deathcore group from Sheffield, England, built around breakdowns, screams, and a deliberately abrasive image. 2 decades later, they had become a global rock act capable of mixing metalcore, electronic music, pop hooks, alternative rock, and futuristic production without completely abandoning their heavier roots. That constant transformation is the reason they inspire both devoted loyalty and intense debate. For some listeners, Bring Me the Horizon represent evolution, proof that a heavy band can grow, take risks, and reach new audiences. For others, each shift away from their earliest sound felt like a betrayal. But whether loved or criticized, the band kept moving, and that movement became their identity. The band formed in 2004 in Sheffield, a city with a long musical history but not necessarily the obvious birthplace for a future global metal phenomenon. The current core lineup consists of vocalist Ollie Sykes, drummer Matt Nichols, guitarist Lee Malia, and bassist Matt Keane. From the beginning, Ollie Sykes became the most visible figure, not only because he was the frontman, but because his voice, fashion, and public persona helped define the band's image. Yet Bring Me the Horizon were never just a personality project. Their rise depended on the chemistry between punishing rhythm sections, sharp guitar work, and a willingness to absorb sounds from outside traditional heavy music. That combination would become increasingly important as the band outgrew the scene that first embraced them. Their debut album, Count Your Blessings, arrived in 2006 and captured the band in its rawest form. The album is primarily associated with deathcore, a style built from death metal intensity and hardcore breakdowns. It was extreme, chaotic, and often intentionally unpolished. For younger fans in the mid-2000s, that sound fit perfectly into an era of MySpace-era heavy music, where image, shock value, and underground credibility spread quickly online. But Count Your Blessings also locked the band into a very specific identity. It introduced them as aggressive outsiders, but it left little room for melody, atmosphere, or experimentation. In hindsight, the album is important less because it predicted their future and more because it shows exactly how far they would eventually travel. The first major turning point came with Suicide Season in 2008. Instead of repeating the formula of their debut, Bring Me the Horizon began moving toward metalcore. That shift mattered because metalcore gave them more tools, clearer song structures, more dynamic pacing, and a stronger sense of emotional drama. The music was still heavy, but it was less trapped inside one mode of extremity. This album became a creative, critical, and commercial turning point because it suggested the band had ambitions beyond being a scene act. It also showed a pattern that would repeat throughout their career. They were willing to risk upsetting part of their existing audience if it meant opening up a new artistic direction. Suicide Season did not make them mainstream, but it made reinvention possible. In 2010, Bring Me the Horizon released There Is a Hell Believe Me I've Seen It. There Is a Heaven Let's Keep It a Secret, an album with a title as dramatic as its sound. Here, the band retained a metalcore foundation but expanded it with classical textures, electronic elements, layered vocals, and moments that felt almost cinematic. This was not simply heavy music with decoration added on top. The outside influences changed the emotional scale of the songs. They made the band sound more haunted, more atmospheric, and more ambitious. The record helped push Bring Me the Horizon further into international attention because it gave listeners something more distinctive than breakdowns alone. It suggested that heaviness could be theatrical, vulnerable, and expansive at the same time. Sempiternal, released in 2013, marked their major label debut and became one of the defining releases of their career. Commercially, it performed strongly, eventually achieving gold certification in Australia and silver certification in the United Kingdom. Artistically, it sharpened the band's balance between heaviness and accessibility. The album delivered huge choruses, electronic programming, and a more polished production style while still maintaining enough aggression to satisfy many heavy music fans. This was the point where Bring Me the Horizon stopped feeling like a band escaping deathcore and started feeling like a band designing a new lane for modern rock. Sempiternal showed how metalcore could be arena-sized without losing emotional intensity. It became a gateway album for many listeners who might not have connected with the band's earliest work. After Sempiternal, the question was not whether Bring Me the Horizon could evolve, but how far they were willing to go. That answer arrived with That's the Spirit in 2015. The album debuted at number 2 on both the UK Albums Chart and the US Billboard 200, a major sign that the band had crossed into a much broader rock audience. Musically, it leaned heavily into alternative rock and more melodic songwriting. The heaviness was still present in attitude and texture, but the songs were built for scale, festival fields, radio playlists, and massive sing-alongs. Tracks from this era helped establish the band as more than a metalcore success story. They were now part of the larger conversation about what mainstream rock could sound like in the 2010s. The band's sixth studio album, Amo, released in 2019, pushed the transformation even further and became their first album to top the UK chart. Amo embraced pop, electronic production, and genre-blurring songwriting more openly than anything they had done before. For some fans, this confirmed the band's creative fearlessness. For others, it was the moment Bring Me the Horizon had moved too far from their heavy origins. But Amo is essential to understanding their career because it proves their evolution was not just a marketing strategy. They were genuinely interested in the possibilities outside metal's borders. The album treated heaviness as one color in a larger palette rather than the entire canvas. That approach helped make them unpredictable, but it also made them difficult to categorize. Also in 2019, the band released Music to Listen To, a project that moved even deeper into experimentation. While it is not usually discussed in the same way as their main studio albums, it matters because it shows how far Bring Me the Horizon were willing to stretch the idea of what the band could be. Instead of focusing on conventional rock structures, the project leaned into ambient, electronic, and experimental sounds. In the broader arc of their career, it functions almost like a laboratory. Not every listener followed them there, but that was partly the point. Bring Me the Horizon had reached a level where they could use side projects and unconventional releases to explore ideas that might later feed back into their larger sound. In 2020, Bring Me the Horizon launched Post-Human, Survival Horror, the first installment in a planned series of 4 post-human projects. This release arrived in a world shaped by anxiety, isolation, and crisis, and its sound matched that tension. It brought back heavier guitars and aggressive energy while keeping the electronic and melodic instincts the band had developed over the previous decade. That made it feel like a synthesis rather than a reversal. The band was not simply returning to metalcore, they were using the full range of their history. Songs from this era, including chart-topping rock and metal singles like Parasite Eve and Teardrops, showed that Bring Me the Horizon could reconnect with heaviness while remaining modern and forward-facing. The second post-human installment, Post-Human, Next Gen, arrived in May 2024 as the band's 7th studio album. By this point, Bring Me the Horizon had built a career around refusing to stay still, and Next Gen continued that pattern. The broader post-human concept allowed the band to frame each release as part of a larger creative universe rather than a disconnected album cycle. That approach fits the modern music landscape, where artists often build worlds, aesthetics, and ongoing narratives around their work. For Bring Me the Horizon, it also gives structure to their genre fluidity. Instead of asking whether a song is metal, pop, electronic, or alternative, listeners are invited to hear it as another piece of the band's constantly mutating future. Beyond albums, Bring Me the Horizon's success can be measured through recognition and reach. They have received 7 Kerrang! Awards, including honors for Best British Band and Best Live Band. They have also won a Brit Award for Best Rock/Alternative Act and earned 2 Grammy Award nominations. The band has sold over 5 million records worldwide, a remarkable figure for a group that began in such an extreme corner of heavy music. They have topped the UK rock and metal singles chart with songs including Throne, Drown, Mantra, Parasite Eve, Teardrops, and Kool-Aid. These achievements matter because they show that the band's evolution did not erase their audience. Instead, it expanded the audience across scenes, countries, and generations of rock fans. The reason Bring Me the Horizon remain important is not just that they changed their sound. Many bands change. What makes their story different is that each change became part of a larger argument about the future of heavy music. They moved from deathcore to metalcore, then to alternative rock, electronic pop, and hybrid forms that resist easy labels. Along the way, they proved that heaviness does not have to mean staying frozen in one style. It can mean intensity, emotional weight, atmosphere, confrontation, or scale. Bring Me the Horizon's career is a case study in survival through mutation. Their most consistent trait is inconsistency, but in their hands, that inconsistency became a strategy, an identity, and a source of lasting power. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.